Is it recording?
Should be. Hold on. Yep, start recording. There we go.
Okay, great. Okay, good evening, everyone. Please be aware if you're attending this meeting, our meetings are recorded for future viewing, and we are privileged to gather on the traditional territory of the Kwakwaka'wakw. We'll call the meeting to order and ask that we add item, if we can make number 10-1, and then add a 10-2 and make it council reports. There's just a couple items there. And on the in-camera, I'll go into more detail at the end, but we're going in under section 91, so 901 A, E, and K. Are there any other additions or amendments to the agenda? Seeing none, then can I have a motion, please, to adopt the agenda as amended?
So moved.
Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay, we'll go to item 4A. We've got May 10th, 2022 public hearing minutes. Are there any changes that need to be made? And if there are none, if we can have a motion, please, to adopt.
Motion received.
Okay. Second?
Sure.
Okay, any changes or anything? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Item 4B, May 10th regular council meeting minutes. Any changes, corrections, and if not, a motion to adopt, please? Seconder for that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. And then finally, item 4C, May 12th, 2022 special council meeting minutes. Moved. Seconder? Second. Okay. Any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? Carried. Okay, moving on to item 5A, we have a letter from the North Island Timing Association. They are bringing back the drag races, but for only one weekend. And they're making a formal request for the town of Port McNeill on renting the paved airstrip at the town's airport for July 15th to the 17th.
I'll move that we give them that request.
Seconder for that? Okay. Any discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, the letter's a little brief. Can everyone hear me okay?
Yes.
I just wondered, like, is the airport club or society or whatever, like, are they on board? Is there any issue? It would be nice to kind of know that. And I guess I don't know if anyone can answer it, but is like the gravel runway open for planes still during this event? Or yeah, I guess I got two questions. Is it totally shut down? Is there some sort of thing? And
yeah, historically, having volunteered occasionally there and also gone and participated and watched the races, yes, the gravel runway is open, and I have seen planes land during race. Like the race shuts down, the plane lands, and then it resumes again.
excellent. Well, I'll just make the assumption that the flying club's on board, and yeah, of course, I'll support this.
All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Thank you very much. Next, we've got item 5B, Logger Sports letter. There was some supporting documentation that came in with a large donation application, and it was emailed to everybody. Apologies on the last minute, but it basically just covers what the letter itself said. So it's just the formal application that comes with it. So look, there's various sponsorship levels. Historically, we've done $1,000. What's your pleasure, Council?
Do you want me to leave? I'm the director. Doesn't do me any good, but I've left for.
There's no, you don't receive any benefit from
Yeah,
it. I don't. There's no.
direct pecuniary benefit.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I'd like to motion that we support it.
My dilemma is 1,000 or 2,000.
Councillor Cole?
Yeah, I'd like to support it as well. I just think $1,000 if that's what we did last year. Sounds good.
I'll second that.
Any further discussion? Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
I guess I was looking at possibly upping it to 2,000, much like many of the other clubs, the opportunity to earn revenue and fundraise in order to put something on. And granted that the program has not been operating for the last 2 years, I would anticipate that their startup costs would be a little higher than in the past. So just a replacement and refurbishment of equipment in order to operate. So I'll support the 1,000, but I definitely more to 2,000 for sure.
Okay. Any other comments on that? Okay. Call the question then. All those in favor of support? Opposed? It's carried. Okay, so that'll be for $1,000 then. Okay. All right, next we have item 6A. This is the Port McNeill Minor Hockey Club Grant in Aid application. This is this from our COVID-19 or is this just?
It was COVID-19.
It was COVID-19, that's right. Yeah.
Replacing revenue.
So we did get some feedback from our CFO. I'll just, Brenda, if you would like to just reiterate what you sent out earlier to us so that the public can be aware of that. Sure. Thank you.
So I reached out to the grants people at the provincial level and asked if COVID restart funds could be used for third-party revenue losses in town, and specifically the hockey club. So the answer I received is a local government can provide COVID restart funding to third parties, except for businesses due to the prohibition on assistance to business. However, those third parties must be delivering an eligible service under Section 35 of the local government grants regulations, including emergency response planning, facility cost, bylaw enforcement, protective services, and service to vulnerable populations. So at the end, they said we're afraid that a grant to a hockey club does not fit within the scope of the COVID restart funding.
Okay, thank you very much. So we're not able to support the club from our COVID restart. Any other, before we go on to the next thing, any other comments or suggestions made? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Like from day one, it's been a little hard to determine what's eligible and not eligible for this grant. So I really appreciate them asking this question. But having read through the section of the grant referred to, like time and time again, it goes back to vulnerable populations, you know, and loss of revenue, which we don't particularly have. I think we've tried to take advantage of that. I just think the same question needs to be said or asked of the grant authority. You know, are we allowed to buy, you know, heating systems, etc.? Like we've done a few of these things, but like the goalpost keeps changing. So I'm just a little thinking we need more information, especially we got a couple more requests coming here.
So I can tell you that this program has evolved, and what our CFO is going on is the latest information that was provided. So at the beginning of the program, it was very vague, and under vulnerable populations, youth was included, seniors was included. Now when our CFO has asked for vulnerable, what is the definition of vulnerable population, youth aren't in it unless they're youth in.
I can read.
Oh, go ahead, yeah, please,
So,
yeah.
I asked the definition of vulnerable populations and was told this would be things like programs for the homeless, disabled, and people with addictions and or mental health issues.
So it's changed again since the beginning, and I think this is just not wanting to be derogatory to any one particular party, but I think as these programs roll out, they tend to shift and adapt as they get input from communities and as they see how funds are want to be used.
I see, but it's either become more restrictive, or I'm just concerned about some of these other requests, maybe not what we've done, because I think we've had the best information available to us, but well, we'll just talk about the other applications when they come, I guess. Thank you.
It's definitely, yeah, we definitely have to take a close look at it, so. Okay, so we'll move along then to item 6B. We have the Port McNeill Lions grant in aid application for their heat pump. So you'll see the application, and they were unable to be here this evening because of an illness, but they have on pages, where is it here? They have included answers to the questions that were asked here it is, it's starting on page 35. So questions that we raised at the meeting, they did listen to the meeting, and they have answered the questions that were asked by council and concerns by council members.
May I speak?
Yeah, go ahead.
Mayor Wickstrom? I did speak with Esther when she was recovering from COVID at the time. She said, you know, I told her we wouldn't make a decision until she was better and we could actually have a conversation, because for me, the questions that I had haven't been answered because there's no historical information here that shows me that that prior to COVID, that things were any different. And that's really what I needed to know is this a sustainable operation or not? The building's falling apart. When you walk around the outside of it, it's almost scary. And is that going to be next? It needs to building envelope needs to be repaired before it blows off. And I really think we need to have more information than what's been provided here. We already pretty much had this, and we already knew that they had restricted income due to COVID, but were they already in trouble before COVID struck? And I think that's information we need to avail ourselves of. And I didn't get a chance to ask those questions because of the COVID thing, and I was completely unaware that this had come in until I got my agenda. So I had no idea that the conversation had continued without me. My understanding was we would deal with it once she was, in a position to have a meeting. I didn't want to put any pressure on.
Okay. Any other comments? What would council like to do? Go ahead, Councillor Downey, and then Councillor Cole.
I'd like to support their application, and I will give my reasons why. Our Lions Club is a facility that has been available for use during the time of COVID, when vaccinations had to be dealt with. It was a facility well suited for it. It was level. It didn't require, it was easily accessible for those who had mobility issues, and we don't have many of those in our town. It also is a facility that provides the service for filling Christmas hampers at Christmas time. That's something that our Lions Club has been doing these past few years. They also gather eyeglasses for those who struggle to see. So I think that in support of our Lions Club, they do a lot in our community, but it is under the radar. It's not necessarily apparent. They're not telling everybody what they're up to. So for those reasons, I will support this application. I'm motioning that we do support it.
Okay, seconder for that motion? Councillor Barron. Okay, go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Yeah, I guess my concerns go back to, I was going to make a motion that we see if this specific program is eligible, because we all sort of assumed the other ones were, and now they aren't. As far as accessibility goes, our old school, we have a facility that's just as accessible, in my opinion. And I really would like us to consider Ryan's sort of points about the overall shape of the building, and can this wait a little bit? Does it have to be decided right now? I don't think so.
I'll refer to staff about if, given that you've done a lot of reading over the last little bit with the legislation and also the what falls under that particular grant, how do you feel that this would be?
I don't know that I can comment whether it fits or not. I can go back to who I spoke with if this fits into the COVID grant funding. I mean, it could fall under vulnerable persons because, as Councillor Downey did mention, they provide services to our vulnerable population. But again, it would be at council's discretion, I think, how they interpret that.
Okay. Any other? Yeah, go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
Just on a point of order for Mayor Wickstrom, because we tabled this motion, the way we would handle it now is we would remove it from the table. It's already a motion. We just have to remove it from the table and then deal with it. Otherwise, it sits on the table forever. I don't mind voting on it tonight, but to vote on it, the motion's already exists. We just need to remove it from the table and I'll move that we do that. And then we can vote on it if that's what the council's wish is.
Okay. You know, we have always, sorry, I struggle a little bit because we've always adopted a little bit more of a relaxed way of navigating through Robert's rules. I have done reading on Robert's rules, and there isn't anything that says we must be strictly adhere. It's if the essence is captured. If you would like to make that motion, if that would make you feel that we're doing things correctly, is there a seconder for that? To remove it from the table? Because we tabled it last meeting. Go ahead. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm not going to second it. I just fully don't understand motion from Councillor Mitchell. So, but I think it'd be great if we could all agree or on some common points of order, rather than a moving target at some point.
Well, and I guess this is a discussion we can have at another time, but we just have to decide whether, you know, we're going to be rigid and very formal or be somewhat more relaxed. I mean, we are generally, sorry, go ahead, Kim. We are generally more relaxed, Councillor Mitchell, because if we were going to be rigid, we would be speaking once and then a second time if there was something new to add, and then that would be it. And we are more relaxed around this table and often speak, you know, more than we probably should if we're going to go on that particular vein.
Mayor Wickstrom, if I may say, I think that obviously following the rules of order seems to be a difficult thing for you, and you'd rather make them up as you go, and that's okay.
Excuse me, Councillor. Excuse me, point of order. I do not want to hear anybody disrespecting anybody. I find that quite the offensive remark. So I'll just stop it right there, and we're going to just continue with the motion that's on the table.
Call the question.
Call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Thank you. Okay, we'll go to item 6C. We have an application, a grant application. This is not a grant in aid with the COVID funding. This is a grant application from Mr. Ryan Minahan, who is leading the North Island Youth Football Club. He is here this evening to answer any questions, if anybody has any direct questions. So for those of you who can't see the audience, so the request at the table is for, is the whole report in here?
It is.
Okay. Sorry, I'm out of sorts at the moment. Can be helpful, that would be great. I believe the amount was
41.
It's 35,000 there.
Yes, okay, thank you very much. What's council's pleasure?
I'm going to move the report for discussion.
Okay, seconder for that?
Second.
Go ahead.
If I may I speak to the
Yes.
proponent in the room?
Please, yes.
Ryan, thank you for the program that you are offering to our young people here in town. My one question I had is because 35,000 is a significant amount of money, I wondered about the sustainability of the program, and you know, is the funds that have been asked for, is that for
That's to further the equipment. I've spent over $20,000, I believe, to this point.
Yeah.
Now, so the funds I'm asking for would give me an opportunity to now go from age 10 to 14, which has been a pretty big gap, which has scared some kids off from actually playing. Being a startup program, I was unsure of how many people would want to get involved.
Yeah.
So I had to do that a larger age group, which, you know, my son's broke his wrist and, you know, there's been injuries to kids that they will sustain during playing sports. But if I were to move a 10 to 12 group and then a 13 through 15 and a 15 through 17, you know, get the 2-year age groups, just like BC Football Association, they run these programs. The BCPFA, I believe it's called. It's every 2 years, so age groups of 2 years. So I'd like to get into that program so we'd able to play teams on a, you know, provincial level down island, and see there's tournaments in like Langley coming up and in Surrey. That's, you know, because I'm not part of that association and I'm just kind of the startup program here myself, I'm unable to get involved and get the kids down to do those things. This money I'm asking for is to purchase equipment for the older kids. So myself, I brought a helmet today. This is my helmet. This costs $500 because it's an adult or junior varsity size helmet. They're more expensive than the, you know, the youth helmet, the youth large to extra large, which won't fit on, you know, 16 and 17-year-olds' head, as well as the pads. I have to buy more protective pants, so they're integrated pants with all the padding, shoulder pads, more jerseys, socks. The kids provide their own cleats. Sustainability, if you don't give me the money, it's okay. I'm gonna do it myself regardless. I can find the money myself, and I'm gonna continue to grow this. I grew up here, I wanted football when I was a child. It was never here, it was never offered. I'm financially kind of in a situation where I can give other kids these opportunities. And playing football when I was in Alberta, I got to see a lot of kids get scholarships, you know, to other universities out of high schools, which, you know, it can help kids here stay out of trouble. This is another outlet for hockey, you know, in spring. You know, a lot of good hockey players come from here. I don't see why a lot of good football players can't come from here either.
Yeah, just one follow-up.
Yeah.
What is the uptake? Like what is the demand?
Demand, well, I had 22 kids sign up for the tackle football program. I purchased 34 sets of equipment. For the flag football for the younger kids, it's kind of an introduction to get them into football. So for next year, I know now, for if I have the age 10 through 12 group, I'll have 30 kids minimum just for that group itself. And then the kids that are gonna age out now that are playing, I like to, you know, move another level up, you know, so 13, 14, 15-year-olds can coexist. And there has been a little bit more of a buzz, and I believe I can make this work. I'm gonna do everything in my power to make it work with your help financially or not, but I would appreciate some help.
Thank you.
I do have a question. What's the difference? So I'm looking at the gear that looks very similar to what goes under hockey gear. So what's the difference between hockey gear has to be purchased by the kids playing hockey and you're proposing to supply it? So what would be the difference between hockey and football there?
Well, every football club, they usually supply the equipment. In Alberta and BC, coming up and down the island, you pay $300 deposit for the equipment to get back. Kids will grow out of their equipment, much like hockey. I don't know why they do it this way. Honestly, it's really hard to get football equipment. I had to call Riddell's head office in the States, and then they gave me a rep for Western Canada who was on the East Coast. And then he actually got fired from his job handling the West Coast, so I wasn't able to contact anyone. And I got lucky and contacted the Riddell Ontario branch, and I spoke directly with the manager, and he was able to put me in charge and help get football equipment.
Okay, thanks. I just was wondering how that worked.
Honestly, the gear's a little different, so there's your collarbones are more protected, it cinches up tighter in your waist. There are back plates that can be mounted on here to protect your lower back. You
Okay.
probably could wear these playing hockey.
Okay,
I don't
thanks.
see why not.
I'll just see if there's any other questions.
Save it, Brandon.
No, that's okay. No, that's good. Any questions from those online?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Mayor, what's from, would like to ask our guest the question, have you had any support from anyone else, any other organizations? Have you approached anyone else for support for this endeavor?
Port Manil Shake and Shingle gave me a $3,000 donation. Lemaire Lake Logging made the uprights for the goalposts and installed those on Chesapeake's upper field. I've had the decals and whatnot made, and the numbers and whatnot put on the jerseys from the signs, Reaper signs downtown. It has been COVID, and I'm not one to ask people for anything. I never have been. So even being in this room, I'm pretty nervous doing this. I prefer just to, shoot for the stars and do things on my own without asking for help.
Well, I applaud your efforts. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
And just so that council knows, I'll just look for the nod from our CFO. We currently have $12,000 in our grant in aid, yeah.
What would be the fees, Ryan, like for you to be part of the,
I believe it's close to $10,000
to be just part of
to be
the,
part of that, yes. And then I have to do these coaching courses as well.
yeah,
Which I'm gonna do anyway. I want my kids to be able to enjoy it and other kids to enjoy it, just as, I've grown up enjoying watching it and I enjoy playing it, and I lived in Alberta, I was in the military. I think it would be benefit the town, like have to be able to host a tournament here, hotels and restaurants. The sports store downtown will be able to sell, other athletic equipment, such as gloves, visors, different cleats. It's something that could bring more tourism potentially even here as well.
Okay.
I'm
So,
gonna,
go
if I
ahead.
make,
Yeah.
can I make a motion?
Okay, go ahead.
I want to move that we put $5,000 toward this program.
Okay, a seconder for that motion? Okay, I don't have a seconder. Is council looking to support at all, more, less, or is that by not supporting the motion, I know at this time? Go ahead.
Paul, when is the equipment needed?
Pardon me, Mayor?
When is the equipment needed?
It'll be for next spring.
Next spring?
I'm not going to run a football program in the fall because of hockey. I think that I wouldn't get the support needed or the amount of kids. Everyone plays hockey here. And spring, it's either soccer or nothing. Now I'm offering football.
Yeah.
So it'll be for next spring.
Okay.
So we're moving on then? No, not at this time?
There's no seconder on his.
Yeah, there was no
motion,
seconder, no. I'm just asking, are we doing
right?
alternate motion?
I have a granddaughter who's playing, I think we should support it. I'm thinking more than 5,000, but I won't motion it just
Yeah,
because
because
my
of
daughter's my granddaughter's a beneficiary of this at this time.
Okay.
And I do support it. So,
Either way, like I said,
Mhm.
I'm going to do it with or without your support.
Mhm.
So I said, thank you. Bruce.
so it's currently tabled.
No,
there's-
it's defeated if it's, yeah.
it's motion.
Mhm.
There's no motion.
Who else traditionally comes in? Like, I'd like to know before because I am contemplating seconding it, but I will second it for discussion. Okay, so it's on the floor now. I'm gonna ask our CFO if what normally historically has come in for our grant and aid. I know that Orca Fest in the past, but the one year when they were going to run it, I was under the understanding, correct me, council, that they said that they actually had enough and didn't need our support. So I'm assuming that that is the same because they haven't had Orca Fest, so they won't be coming to us for the 5,000. What else do we normally have? And sorry, I should have had you.
I have to circle that. So.
That's okay, we'll just give our CFO a moment. Because I'm not entirely sure we used up all of our grant and aid
Well,
last year.
That was my question,
Yeah.
is what happened to last year's?
Yeah. As a matter of fact, I'm not sure if every year we ever hit the maximum on the grant. Okay, go
So
ahead,
is
Councillor
the
Dunn.
issue that it's 5,000 or do you feel it should be higher?
I'm not feeling it should be higher because that still leaves $7,000 for other clubs who may come in. We're only halfway through the year. And that's why I was just wondering historically, what is it that still comes in? Just making sure that we have
Such a
enough in there.
Small amount in the grant.
Yeah.
I only asked for that because that's essentially what exactly it's gonna cost me to
Mhm.
go ahead and, get all
Yeah.
this equipment for older children.
Oh,
And I
like
read
your-
pickleball got like 20-something thousand dollars, so I honestly, I had no idea what pickleball even is.
We didn't get
So-
pickleball any money, did we?
No,
Nope,
didn't.
we
It
didn't.
was in the paper.
Oh, that was in Port Hardy. Yeah.
I don't know what pickleball is, so, it's a paddle and
In a
table.
court?
a wiffle ball or something.
So we're still, for those of you online, we're still waiting for staff. Go ahead.
So through the chair, so there's quite a few different things in here.
Mhm.
Orca Fest was 5,000 a few years ago. The Loggers Golf Tournament, from I think it says Kids in Motion here,
Mhm.
is a small one. Gatehouse Community, so this is from about 2019 coming forward.
Yeah,
because of COVID. Minor Hockey, from Lioness, Gatehouse Community. Couple smaller donations.
Okay.
There's a 2000 and 2020 to Kids in Motion.
Okay.
Kind of a lot of other smaller 150.
Okay.
I guess just, that's one question then, Ryan. Do you actually have an association set up or a
I have a nonprofit, I
nonprofit?
have a nonprofit.
A nonprofit, okay.
Under the Rain North Island.
Okay. All right, any further questions on the motion that's on the table? Okay, seeing none, then I'll call the question. All those in favor of supporting for $5,000 from our regular grant and aid? And anyone opposed? And sorry, Ryan, you look perplexed.
Yeah, I didn't know there was a motion on the table.
Yeah, you made it. I seconded
I
it.
know, but there was no seconder.
I did.
Oh, okay. I'm sorry. I completely missed that. Thank you.
No, I said that I was leaning towards it, but I needed to know a bit of information, and then I went, oh, I'll second it, and then we can get that information. Okay.
Yep.
It's
I'm
passed.
totally in favor of that.
And anyone opposed? Sorry, I should have asked that question. Okay, then that has passed. Okay, thanks very
Thank you
much.
very much, council and mayor.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right, we'll move on to item 7A. We have finance report. So we have two here. We have the updated check listing. We'll take that one first. So any questions for staff on the check listing?
I had note there. On page 71 of 149,
Okay, yeah.
there was a
Yeah, go ahead.
fire department supplies for 312739 at the source. And I find supplies to be a rather vague term, so I'm just wondering what exactly was purchased for $3,100 for the fire department.
On page 71, you said?
Page
Okay.
71 of 149, 140
Okay.
to second. It's page 2 of 5 on the check listing.
205, okay.
206?
206, you mean, yeah.
I can't find it.
I can't find it either.
2 of 5 is on the top. It's our page 71.
Oh, okay. I'm not seeing.
I don't see it either for fire department. Oh, okay, yeah, it's item 20220-320. So it's just above the IGA, yeah.
Party Sam, sorry.
Yeah.
So through the chair, so Councillor Mitchell, I have to go back to the actual invoice to get you those details, and I don't have the invoice in front of me.
Okay, I don't mind knowing that later. Thank you.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions from the report? Okay, and then we'll move to the finance update. It is a written report on page 775. I do have a question. I asked earlier, but I will ask again. On our, one of the things that was noted by the auditors was the regular financial reports.
Right.
So I was asking when we might expect those and if you could answer that.
Sure, so through the chair, so regular financials should be presented probably either quarterly or semi-annually. I'll have to go back to the bylaw and see what our bylaw says, but so probably mid-July would be the first report, so June 30th would be the cutoff, and probably 2 weeks after that for a set of financials.
Okay, thank you. Any other questions? So move receipt of the finance report then, please. Seconded. All those in favor? Opposed, carried.
I like it.
Yeah. Okay, next we're moving on to economic development report. So first we have our work plan update, and we'll go to the downtown bus stop program after that. So any questions on our economic development manager on the work plan? Okay, none? Okay, so we'll move then to the bus stop program, which is on page 87 of your agenda. So staff is looking for direction. Having met with the Tourism Advisory Committee and businesses, there is a proposal which we currently do not have for buskers. And so you'll see on page 89 and 91, there is a proposal on what that would entail, the cost, and also some possible locations.
So the application goes through the Chamber of Commerce, but they get licensed through us, or the Chamber of Commerce part is just the I just didn't understand.
Okay, go ahead to staff.
Sorry, Chair. I did not realize Chamber of Commerce was still on the top of that report. That is my fault, and I apologize for that.
Okay.
The applications would probably, I'm assuming, since this is through the Tourism Committee as well, that the applications would, I could take the applications as the Economic Development Manager, because I don't think that I would be overwhelmed with dozens and dozens of buskers the first year. But I could make that happen for them by taking applications, interviewing them, getting them to fill out the forms, collecting the cash fee of $20, and then I could report either directly back to council through the CAO, or at the discretion of council, I can report through the Tourism Commission. And then eventually what I would hope would happen is the Tourism Commission would take over this component of the program. The bus stop information that I found, and I'm hoping the Chamber of Commerce will come on board with this, but I haven't been able to contact them at this point. However, I'm hoping that because this is a very successful program in, where they get it from, Samarin. They said it's worked really well for them. They had an issue with buskers. They had no control over the buskers. They didn't know where they were. They couldn't get any kind of compliance, or they didn't know where the sites were. So they developed this program. I called them and talked to the person in charge of the busking program, who said it really was good, and then she also said we stole it from Kelowna. So
Okay.
I think it's a good proposal in that it controls what kind of entertainment and what kind of, what is allowed, what is not allowed, where the locations would be, the hours of operation. One busker could not stake out one spot for the rest of the season. They have limitations in terms of how long they can stay there. And the biggest issue that we debated at a previous council meeting was they could keep any donations that come, if somebody throws $1 into the hat or into their guitar case or whatever they have sitting out, they could keep that money. And the reason I started looking at this was because our previous business license
Didn't have the mechanism.
didn't have that mechanism, no. And so when speaking to the Tourism Commission, one of the commission members who would potentially be a busker said, why would you do this if you couldn't keep your money? Because our previous business license said you paid $150. Any money that you collected had to be donated to a charity. This $20 permit would allow them to keep any money that the public might give them. If they're really great acts, they might make some money. If it's me singing on the street corner, I might have to pay people money. So it's I think a good solution to a really interesting way of livening up the downtown. And that's the biggest thing I hear is what is there for tourists to do downtown other than shop? Shopping is awesome, but what keeps them walking around and looking into more stores would be some activity, some music, some action. So this is what Salmon Arms says it's working really well for them.
Thank you. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
It's just the way that this document has been presented. I'm going to go to the next document, which is the Tourism Commission recommendation on busing. As the ED has correctly stated, this came up at our tourism meeting. We are a tourism-based meeting, and the question was asked by one of the members. It said, how do we address this? Because they were seeking to have busking available, and they were told no, because our current license doesn't permit it, or you do it only for donations. And so that's how it came about, and it was by chance our ED and Chris were at our meeting. So they took it upon themselves to go and look for other options, which you see in front of you in the report that was prepared by Marilyn. So just to clarify, this has not been discussed around the council table before. This was discussed around the Tourism Commission table. So just to clear the air there. It also has not come before the Chamber of Commerce as well, because I have spoken with them. And so I do have to ask, though, for clarity. It says that it went before the Downtown Business Improvement Group, of which I'm a part of, and I don't recall seeing it there. So maybe you could clarify who has been consulted with regard to this.
Actually, that through the chair, it may be a shortfall on my part. I talked to Lisa Fernie, and she indicated she would talk to the Downtown Business Group, which is not I don't understand if it is a formal organization or an informal group of downtown businesses, but I could certainly take that out of the proposal and go.
Take it on.
I think I agree that the Tourism Commission should be spearheading this, and my understanding is that they are quite in favor of it.
The Tourism Commission is
Yeah.
in favor of this, absolutely. So my question to my fellow councillor, mayor and council is, as you see in the document that's been prepared here, email applications to the ECDEV or to Chris Wu, once approved. So who's going to make the decision on who gets approval? Where does that responsibility lie? Because that needs to be fleshed out, who will and how that will be done. My other question is, do we need applications going in two directions, or should the applications be coming to, reception at Town of Port McNeill or to the tourism group? Pick one. I can see opportunity for losing applications if we're gonna send it 2 directions. And we also have 2 contact people listed here as well. So I appreciate the work that was brought forward before us, because it's a great means to get this operating in our community. But I do see where some things need to be addressed and cleaned up. So
Yeah, same.
I can't approve this as it's presented, just for those reasons. I think we need more clarity in the document about roles, who will oversee and guarantee.
Yeah, like, and for example, on page 89, it says limited to the Downtown Fort McNeil Business Improvement Association. Well, we don't have an association. It's a committee, but I would be happy with it being simplified to the downtown core, which we have now defined in our OCP. So things like that, just little things. But I'm not opposed to it in principle. I think it would be great to try it for the summer. So any other comments? And how do we move forward? Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. The part of this that I question is the limited to 8 spots. And it certainly looks like a few of those spots are on private property. So I'm not sure why the town would be involved in that. I get it. To have a business license or a permit, even if somebody is on private property, and we could control if they're all those things listed. But that should be up to the individual landowner if they want to have somebody on their property or not. I see a map as on like page 95 showing 8 spots on town property. Like that's what we should be in control of, town property. And if, who's to stop somebody if they want to busk at the tire shop? Like that's not up to us to decide that. That's how I feel. We should make some rules for, just like we do any business in town. You can't just open up any business. So sure, have some rules for busking, but to limit it to 8 spots, those should be on public property, and it could be in 50 spots on private property, and the market will decide. That's my input.
So if I can make a comment on that, currently people could have a food truck on private property, but still need a permit, still need a business license. And I think that's the reason why you'll see it in those areas, but they still require the $20 permit. So
sorry, you misunderstood me. I totally agree with that. A busker should have a permit, but we should not be telling them, we should be telling them where to go on our public property, but not on private property. If it's allowed in the downtown core, if a local business, there's only 3-4 stars on private property here, why would another property across the road not have that opportunity? So I just see I like the idea, but the inherent unfairness with the public-private thing is
I understand now. Thank you, Councillor Cole, for that clarification. So what I'm hearing then is that we're almost there, but not quite there. So we're looking for staff to bring back locations that we have control over. Right? Sorry,
Sorry, they're there, it just means removing private ones. That's all.
Removing the private ones, yeah. And so come back to us with that map revised. And then is there any suggestions on the cleaning up of the these particular?
A flow chart of, like, you apply for a permit, who's gonna handle what, if and when it needs to come back to council, like kind of an overview. It's almost like, I almost feel like maybe Salmon Arm's too big in the way that they've done this, and that might be why, like on the map with the private locations and stuff, and I just think, and I'd like to hear any 2 bits that the CFO has about us signing contracts and taking money for a permit, but then signing a contract that has a clause in it on insurance. I think it needs to be, the idea is great, but let's just slow it down a minute, kind of go back and go, okay, what's the process? Ideally, we want a permit, and just move it back a little bit to make sense.
I'd like to don't know if we can look at calling it a pilot project, because I know I spoke with our CAO and it was explained that we'd have to update our business bylaw, but I'd like to find out, and I don't need this answer right away, but you know, I would like it to come back and say, how do we do a pilot project? So we don't have to change the whole bylaw, that we can try it out for a summer. We can see what like a temporary use idea for this particular program and have it be a pilot for the summer and just see how it goes. And then one summer we'll know what areas work, what areas don't work, you know? Anybody else that wants to speak that hasn't spoken yet? Councillor Mitchell and then Councillor Cole?
The only thing that I'd like to see is some pretty much immediate action, because it's already May. We need to get this thing going. I think it's a wonderful idea. I understand, you know, there's a bunch of details that got to be tidied up. I can see that you guys have done a good job of pointing them out. But I think the concept is wonderful. Somebody's, you know, thinking outside the box a little bit, and let's get on it. So I'm with you. If there's a way we can just fast track this, maybe one way we could do it. Busking is a use that can be worked into the bylaw the way it sits now. We could just let the fee stand and provide a refund of $65 so they only paid their $20 or whatever. You know, maybe there's a, you know what I mean? Maybe there's a way around this that's just to get it done. This is good action, and I'd like to see it move.
Councillor Cole?
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. On Councillor Mitchell's note, a way to move this forward quickly would be first come, first serve. You know, it's going to go into the weeds with committee and who's deciding what's art and what isn't. Let the people decide. If somebody's no good and they're strumming their banjo, they're not going to make any money. They're going to move on, you know, and why we would say 8 only, you know, that we can never have a busker festival with 20, you know, like if we're going to do temporary use permit and we want to move it along quickly, you know, I've read through some of the, all of it, and there's enough language in there that our bylaw officer could go shut somebody down if they're offensive or juggling knives. So that's my 2 bit.
Okay. So do I hear then a motion in support and have staff just work out the details and we move ahead? What's your pleasure, Council? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
I would do that.
I want to specifically just make the motion for, and we can make other motions after, but the first come, first serve basis to move ahead on the busking idea on a first come, first serve permitting basis.
Second for that?
I'll second it.
Okay. Go ahead, Councillor Downey.
Councillor Cole, you made mention of why limit it at 8. You, by having a first come, first served, does that imply that there is a cap?
No, I don't think a cap would be necessary, and it's also a year long, so people come and go. So all of a sudden, 8 people might try it and fail because their music's no good or whatever. They move out, things change, and then all of a sudden we've made this whole bylaw. Then our hands are tied. We, you know, it should just be free market. We're a small enough town, you know, we're not going to be tripping over buskers, I don't think. I mean, maybe that'd be good, but.
Oh, so you're saying then first come, first serve to the spots that are determined?
Correct. And
Thank
unlimited
you.
number of
Yeah.
permits that could go on private property as well.
To
I
specified
understand.
sites?
Yeah.
Okay.
So Connor, if you could put that up on the screen, please, for us, the motion, just to make sure it's been captured correctly.
Okay, hold on 1 second.
Okay. That the busking concept be moved ahead by staff on a first come, first served basis on specified sites.
Unlimited number of permits.
Or no cap, whatever you want to However you want to put it.
Okay. Okay, are the movers and the seconders comfortable with the way it's written?
Yeah.
Okay. All right, so I'll call the question then. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Thank you very much. We'll move on to item 5C. We have our,
Question.
oh, sorry, go ahead.
Does that mean we're leaving it to staff to come back with cleanup language and how we put this into effect?
Sorry, I should have asked that question. What would you like?
Well, I'm just asking if that is the intention with that motion.
That's fine with me, but what's the rest of council feel? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Yeah, I just wanted to nail down the big things and trust staff can work with the language. And if we gotta hash it out again and some language. So, yeah.
So we want to see this back at the table in 2 weeks with the cleaned up language is where we're at.
Or at our next committee of the whole. We have a committee of the whole, can be put on that agenda too.
See it next scheduled meeting,
Next scheduled meeting?
whichever.
Okay.
Okay.
Excuse me, Council, I'm just gonna step on that.
Yeah, well, that's fine, yeah.
Thank you very much for
Thank you.
hearing me tonight. I
Yeah.
appreciate you all. Thank you so much.
Next scheduled meeting, okay. So Connor, if you can make note that this will go on, okay. Okay, is that okay to move ahead then? We're good? Great. All right, item 7C, we've got the harbor report. So the first one, we have our Harbor Authority staff report on operations, and I believe Rebecca is here if you have any questions for her. Ms. Adams. Okay.
I have one question. The adjustments to the trestle-knee approach, I'm presuming we're referring to the concrete approach, which has some tripping hazards. So my question around that is, when will we see that addressed?
Okay, go ahead, please, Rebecca.
Yes, so we actually spoke with McElhaney earlier this week, and they were going to be following up with Blue Water Systems because we were still waiting to hear back from Blue Water Systems. I'm not sure if Julian has heard anything further from that, but I haven't heard an exact date, but we did give them a push just the end of last week to remind them that we still need this getting done as soon as possible.
Thank you.
So Julian, do you have anything to comment on? It's okay if you don't, but I know that you are here as well. So do you have anything further to report on that?
Yeah, no problem. Just to concur with the harbour manager that it is in progress. We're just trying to coordinate the adjustments to the trestle, along with the delivery and installation of the fish cleaning float. So we're just waiting on confirmation of the actual date that they're going to mobilize, but it should not be too much longer.
That would be nice to see that cleaned up before we have more people walking the waterfront before somebody bails. Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. To Rebecca, page 103 of your report, page 101, under 4, parking lot B, item 3, upcoming continuing meetings with Harbor Advisory Group to outline budget and required quotes, tenders, required engineering, and I'm particularly interested in horticulturalists preparing for updates to gardens and training of staff. So I guess I'm wondering if you could expand on that a bit. And we're talking about training of harbor staff to look after plants, I guess, maybe, and sort of what budget, harbor budget or public works.
Yeah, so we've been working with Sonia from Garden Gate as our potential horticulturalist that will be coming in to do the gardens. And she will be redoing a whole bunch of the harbor gardens, especially around parking lot B. And she has volunteered to train both harbor staff as well as public works staff on how to best maintain those gardens to make it easier for us to maintain them.
And just to further that, so is that like does that come out of the harbor's budget or is it public works?
It will be
Expense?
coming out of the capital budget for that project.
For that project, okay, to do with the project. Thank you.
Okay. Any other questions on that report?
The only question I have, if I may, is
Yeah, go ahead.
what's the goal for the repair on the approach? Is it to restore it to its the pre-project conditions so that a woman with a baby buggy or a man in a wheelchair can wheel completely around that approach without having to drive onto the parking lot or go over an obstruction? Is that what the plan is? Because if it's not, I want to know what it is. I find it very
Yes, that
disturbing that
is.
it was ever allowed to be done that way.
Thank you.
Yes, that is what the plan is.
It'll be back on grade the way it was designed.
Yes, that's what we're working towards right now. The issue had been that they had taken the measurement of the trestle with the length of the fish cleaning hut and not just of the trestle, which is why it ended up being too long. So they are coming in and they're actually going to shorten the trestle where it is and then fix the grade of the cement so that you don't have to, there is no tripping hazards.
So they're not going to lower the trestle to the correct height, in other words. The trestle is too high by about 6 inches. That's what needs to be done to correct this problem. It's still going to be a tripping hazard if there's a slope from the parking lot to the trestle. There never was before. It was always level. Why would it not be level now?
Let staff answer. Okay, go ahead, Rebecca.
I don't know if Julian might have the answer to that. I believe that they were looking into being able to lower it, but I have not heard the official final plan.
Go ahead, Julian.
Yeah, so if I could speak to that there, Mayor Workstrom. So what it is, Councillor Mitchell, is that in shortening the actual trestle, which was built to the wrong dimensions in the first place, because of the grade that you're probably well aware of from the parking lot down to the lock block retaining wall that was built, it will naturally be lower by 4 inches, I believe is actually the correct measurement. So it will be a level transition.
So I'm just going to try and get it clear. The only question I have is, will it be on grade with that sidewalk, the existing sidewalk, or not? Because it was on grade when they started this project, and now it's not on grade. So will it be on grade? That's, I guess, my question.
That is my summation from the actual what they have proposed to do to rectify the issue. Whether or not that it actually involves a secondary concrete pour to bring it up to grade or not, that's yet to be determined. And whether they have to actually redrive the piles, etc., that sort of thing. So at the moment, I've been assured that it's going to be on grade.
Okay, and thank you. I mean, our engineers are involved in it, so I'm going to trust that it will be all up to par and that will be taken care of. Okay, we'll go to the staff bathroom. Oh, sorry, were there any other questions on that report? Okay, seeing none, then we'll move to the staff update on harbor shower and bath building upgrade. That starts on page 107. So any questions from the report? I do have a question on your options, Rebecca. You've got 4 options there. On item B, what is missing is add additional money to the project. What would that additional money, those funds, be that you would request?
I would have to confirm what even is available with our CFO, but we would potentially have to add $30,000 to $40,000 more to the project in order to deal with the scope of the project and how much it has increased over the last year.
Okay, thank you.
40% increase.
For clarity, the report says this year the same building and delivery costs from that company is $94,800. All other companies have been at least $130,000 for the building and delivery costs alone. Our budget was for 100. So if I use that 94.8, a budget of 100, would we not be able to do this project with the funds allotted? Unless there was another price increase?
Well, that's just for the building to be built and delivered. It doesn't account for having to put the foundation in, as well as any utility hookups that need to be done, and hydro lines, any kind of extra services that have to be put in, as well as if we need to put in any type of specialty locks or coin operated showers. That is all extra in addition to the project.
Thank you.
Okay. I personally would like to see us move ahead, as with each day that ticks, these prices get higher and higher. I mean, I'm hearing that 30 to 40,000, that would be the maximum, but yeah,
But at that price, does it behoove us to actually talk to someone who builds? I'm at a point where I'm so confused with this, I just don't even understand anymore. We have a building there that we lease, that they're gonna tear down, that there's already stuff there for, so then we were talking about portable showers, those little Ritchie Brothers ones, but now I see that they're not meeting building code. And then purchasing a modular, I mean, is this possible to maybe have an actual, if a committee of the whole have like Rebecca and Julian here with the plans and kind of just explain it to us so that we know we're making a decision.
more data.
You know, like maybe this isn't the best for us to look after. Maybe it's better to, I don't want to say contract out, but maybe it's better to look at a different option. It just, because I agree with you, money just keeps going up and up. I don't know.
I have one question. Did we actually try and get a quote from out in the community to have somebody just build? Because this, the square footage seems quite small. We're putting in 2 bathrooms and a shower on what, a 8 by 10? 10 by 20 building? I don't know. I mean, you just do your math on your square footage for building costs, and it would seem to me that 100,000 should be ample. But I wonder if we need to take a look at this from another angle.
I would be inclined to agree with that.
So just staff, have we looked at having it built locally?
No, I have not contacted any contractors to see if they could build it locally. One thing to keep in mind is that if we do build locally, it will likely be a permanent structure and not able to be moved like we had originally planned to be able to move it to property that is completely owned by the town later on.
And that was one of the things that we had said.
How likely was that to happen though?
Yeah.
That would be the question.
Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I think that we need to be cognizant that every $30,000 we spend is a 2% tax increase in terms of actual cost to the citizens of Port McNeill. So if we increase the cost from 100,000 to 130,000 and we don't get some grant money for it, we're either going to have to dip into reserves, borrow money, or raise taxes. And so I think that it behooves us to look at that building, and maybe we can, if it seems that we don't want to be moving it, maybe we need to get a contractor in who can say, yeah, we can make those showers serviceable for 50 grand. We can throw a couple of toilets in, blah, 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 you're done. And we got the old building, put the new face on it, and away you go. Just what, you look what happens when somebody puts a facelift on the building, and it, it looks pretty good. You can make a building look quite different without spending a lot of money. Maybe you do have to spend a lot. I see Shelley grinning. But I think that maybe we need to take a new look at it. We got 100 grand budgeted for it. Let's do it for the 100 grand, whatever we can afford to do. Let's not go looking to add to the budget. We've already done that too many times.
So here's my thought on hearing the conversation. We have a budget of 100,000. We're not building people. I say, Rebecca, I need council to agree, but we've budgeted 100,000. Staff, make it work with 100,000. Whether it's going to be a renovation, whether it's going to be a local person built, we have 100,000 budgeted. We've said, and that this is the only clarification I wanted. Staff was suggesting 2 bathrooms with 2 showers, so a bathroom shower unit. But council had also said, is there a possibility of making one with just a washroom that could be used for the public? I believe I heard that. So, is council in agreement? Just staff go make it work for 100, however you make it work. What's your thoughts? I mean, I think us talking around here slows the process down, so.
Well, and is there, if we're thinking of tearing that building down and then putting a something on that's movable, is there somewhere now with doing that parking lot B expansion or cleanup, is there somewhere that makes sense, Julian, for all those boy things, like sewer and water and electrical, that maybe we could put the permanent structure instead of planning to be movable?
I don't recall, but Smallcraft Harbors, are they requiring that we make it a semi-permanent structure? That's whose property it's sitting on.
Clarification on that? I don't believe so, but if you can give clarification, Rebecca?
No, Smallcraft Harbors has not specified any restrictions to the building that we put in, as long as we obtain ownership and notify them well in advance of what is going in.
Thank you.
Did I see a hand up there? Or did I? Okay.
Mayor Wickstrom?
Oh, go ahead. Sorry, it's Julian. That's right. I knew somebody wanted to speak. Go ahead, Julian.
Okay. Sorry, I didn't put a hand up. Could I recommend that perhaps staff prepare for a committee of the whole meeting to put forward the options, like listening to council's wishes tonight? I think as illustrated, this project has gone on for quite a few years now, and there are quite a few developments. So I think perhaps at a committee of the whole meeting, we could just bring everybody up to speed with the different options.
Okay.
That would be great.
All right, so Counter, if you can make a note of that, will be put on the next committee of the whole. All right. Next, we'll move to item 7D, visitor experience. We've got the report before you, and they are also looking for extra input. I wanted to say great job on the museum opening. I did attend, and I saw a lot of people walking towards the museum, so that's great. And as far as the report itself goes, I love how you have year over year. I know it's a little bit of an anomaly with COVID and whatnot, but I'd appreciate that. Questions from the report for staff? Chris is here. No questions? Any suggestions on feedback, or do you like the way the layout is? Oh, Chris was just wanting to know, council provide feedback on any information that they'd like in future updates, or they have to talk with the way the report's laid out. That's what they're looking for, Chris is looking for.
I think it's a great start and it'll evolve a little bit
Okay.
as the summer goes and.
Okay, excellent. All right, so if there's no comments, then we'll move on to item 7E, Public Works. We have Julian here. Any questions from his report on page 119? Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Through the chair to Julian, I was just wondering, on page 119, under Public Works, mid, it says continued work on the town of Port McNeil's. Oh, I thought it was bear safety. My mind went right to bear safety. That's just general safety. But I did, I guess on that note, wonder if Public Works was aware we moved our $15,000 bear containers at the harbor forward. We were predicting that for a couple of years out. So that was moved to this year's budget. And I just was wondering if, I guess Public Works is aware of that.
Sorry, Councillor Cole. Yeah, okay, just trying to follow there. So there was a $15,000 budget approved for bear-proof containers down at the harbour. And,
yeah, and it kind of flew under the radar. It was in, like, it was to be spent in a couple of years, and it was one of the last things we changed on the budget. We moved it to this year, so I just wanted to make you aware of that.
Yep, you bet. And I'll be working with the harbour staff on that one for sure.
Yeah. Okay, thanks.
Okay, Councillor Downey.
Julian, I see here backhoe major service. I remember when this was acquired, Graham McDonald regular service and maintenance on this machine. So I'm just wondering, what is our status in terms of our maintenance on it, and how is our backhoe holding up?
Okay, apologies, you cut out a little bit, but I got the gist of that. Yeah, the major service, this is like a 4,000-hour service, so it's quite a major service on the machine. It's far beyond what we can do in-house. Not having an actual Red Seal mechanic to do that kind of work, although we do the minor maintenance on all of our mobile equipment. When it comes to something like this, we do, we're taking care of the asset that we actually purchased. And you're right, like that was something that Councillor Graham McDonald brought up. It's just due diligence. It's something that I think is required. And as I said, it's something that we have to contract out. The backhoe is doing absolutely fine, by the way.
Oh, clarification. Go ahead.
I wasn't questioning the expense. I was wondering how the minor servicing was going on between that. Are we doing regular oil changes and greasing and all that sort of maintenance? And can I just
Absolutely. Yeah, absolutely, 100%.
In there, Julian? Because
Go ahead, Councillor.
up above there under Public Works, it says continued work on the safety program. Well, part of the core certification is making sure your preventative maintenance program has all the checklists and proof of service. So if the logbooks aren't something that's kept, maybe that's something that would be a real tangible thing for the beginning years of the safety program items, is to establish what those services are. And like you say, a 4,000-hour service is a pretty significant one.
Mm-hmm.
So, but you'd be able to kind of have that diary if it's not already in place.
Yeah, no problem. Absolutely. We do train the Public Works employees to facilitate the interim oil changes, filter changes, the minor maintenance. We do that all in-house, and that's been something that Public Works has been capable of doing over many years. there is obviously an ongoing sort of investigation, if you will, as to what the core certification looks like and what level of servicing is required, and recording, all the record keeping, which is like an ongoing project. And yeah, I believe we fall into that category of actually in compliance with that.
Okay. Okay, any other questions? All right, so we'll move on to item 7F, Fire Department report. Any questions? I don't believe, on the Fire Department. So it's there for your information.
Move receipt for information.
Second, all in favor? Opposed, carried. Item 7G, campground report. So she's listed a few obstacles. I have a question, and I asked you this earlier, Julian. I know that council made a decision not to have laundry facilities. I don't know what all the reasons were. I know my reason was because of the safety of the building. There is a note here in the few paragraphs down that says the laundry facilities have been fixed and are ready to go if we choose to allow this. I was wondering if you had a chance to take a look. What does that, like, what does fixed mean, and what has changed since we were alerted to some possible hazards there?
So I did reach out to the campground manager, and she is unaware of any actual safety issues with the building, and neither am I, but I'm more than willing to go and explore that. I believe the issue was that the actual equipment that was in there was beyond repair, which since has been replaced. Should council wish to pursue the laundry facility, being available to the campground users, I don't see any further obstacles, but that's definitely on the radar for me to double check any issues that are present with the building.
Thank you.
I just was wondering about the Wi-Fi thing. Thought we had Wi-Fi before?
So through the chair, yeah, so when the previous caretakers were there, they had internet to their building. When they left, the internet was taken away when the service was no longer needed.
Right.
So we do not currently have it. With our current contract with the campsite, we weren't sure if we should invest in getting it put back in or not, but I do have an email into our sales representative asking cost, because most of our things we go in as a contract in our kind of business program. So a couple different options if we can do a month-to-month out there, if there's other options such as the hub or things that we can provide to the campers. But when we got started, there was no internet at the time, so.
Will we start to get some statistical reporting?
It's still pretty early.
Maybe quarterly or something?
For user or usage?
Yeah.
Or, yeah, we can quarterly.
Some sort of something?
Sure.
Yeah.
So there are some recommendations there. Is council entertaining any idea of some of what? Go ahead, Councillor Cole. You're still muted.
Make a motion, we supply 8 more locally sourced picnic tables to the campground. Seems a little silly we wouldn't have picnic tables for every, and we added sites, so I mean.
I'll second that.
Okay, staff has their hand up, go ahead.
So I'm just, when we're looking at, sorry, from a financial perspective, and we're looking at this may only go till December, and maybe you can chime in as well the cost of a picnic table, but I know they're not inexpensive, so if we do 8 and they're between, I don't know, Julian, 500 and 1,000? That's $8,000, that's a big investment for.
Well, I think we're thinking picnic tables that we have at the waterfront, whereas we, I know that the high school has made picnic tables in the past. That's what I was thinking, if NIST could do them and what would the cost be. Julian, go ahead, please.
Yes, Mayor Wickstrom, I can look into it. Just a sort of an information benchmark. The last two that were built were in the neighborhood of about $400, and they were locally sourced and very well built tables that will last a long time. So that could give you some kind of idea of the cost involved.
Where else do we have picnic tables that maybe would be replaced that, than the ones that are appreciated? Could
That
Yeah.
right down there.
Yeah.
Could maybe,
No,
is that a possibility?
it was a good point, Councillor Barron. The thing is, a lot of the picnic tables are commemorative, along with the benches. So basically, they are not movable. People actually purchase the spot as opposed to the actual table or bench. So very limited on that. Possibly two, to be quite honest with you.
So what about the two that are sitting out in the back parking lot there? How many people sit on, it was a nice idea, but how many people sit there?
Okay, Mayor Wickstrom, that is the two that I'm talking about.
Oh, and staff is nodding because they look out a window and they're saying it does get used. Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Yeah, no, I was just the same. I don't ever see those being used. And so if we're really worried about money, let's just buy 6 and use those 2. And these are good tables. If the campground doesn't work out, we'll find a use for them or sell them or whatever. But I'll change my motion to 6 if that's agreeable to the seconder.
I guess I have a question for staff. When we do something like that outside of our budget process, what are the implications and where does that come from?
Yeah, so it's, it would come out of somebody's operating budget, so we have to figure out who's willing to give that up. Parks and Recreation, maybe? I don't know. Yeah, because if it's going to be for the town and it's not for a set location, I think that would have to be decided on.
Could you, before the next meeting, find out who we can get locally sourced ones from, what the time lead is? Because it does seem kind of foolish to have a campground site and you don't have a table of some sort. Like we're not really providing, like not having a fire ring, right? So is that possible? So at least we have an idea of the dollar amount that we're talking about?
Would you be amicable to that motion pending a quote from staff? Or you want to just?
No, sorry, not really. We got one. They were about $400, so I think we got a pretty good idea. And a campground, if there's a site, it should have a table. I mean, we've gone this far with the campground.
Councillor Downey, go ahead.
I'm just thinking we opened up sites that are very, very narrow. They call them motorcycle sites. They're extremely narrow. I can't even imagine, that a picnic table would go on that site. It might be nice to, but maneuvering your motorbike past tables and stuff, I trust Shari's judgment. She says we need them, but I'm wondering what scale we need them at, because these $400 ones are behemoths. They're beautiful and lovely, but one of my first jobs as a teenager was building picnic tables and outhouses in order to run a day camp up at the old IPEC camp at Williston Lake. So that was a job. I don't know if we have students that we can task with building picnic tables. I don't know what our workforce is looking like this year as well. I'm thinking smaller scale when I say that clearly. 2x4s, not 2x6s or 2x10s.
So I guess the only thing is where the money would come from. We do have 100,000 in Parks and Recreation.
That's supposed to be for capital. I don't know if picnic tables count, but it's for vulnerable people. So let's take it out of there.
Ouch.
Well,
So the motion is 6 picnic tables now. and we just want to finish that motion off with where it comes from.
Well, I'm not willing to support it unless I know where the money's coming from. Even though it's a small amount, we've been through a budget process. Where's the money gonna come from? I don't want to see somebody arbitrarily, I mean, we're making decisions on a department's budget, so I feel like it should come out of some sort of reserve or pocket or, I mean, we just got community forest money, 75,000 maybe, you know, like where, council? I don't want to see, you know, Julian is, anyway, I'm not going to support it unless we know where the money's coming from.
Can we not take it out of our grant and aid budget, like our regular budget? Like, does it have to come from somebody in the community? We just talked about it, and there's $12,000 there, and we just took 5 out for the football club.
Why can't we take 5 out of Parks and Rec? And then if the campground isn't to go next year, maybe we'll get that area across from the fire hall cleaned up and we could put 6 park benches in there very easily for people to wander and sit at. Can we call the question?
Okay, I'll allow Councillor Mitchell because he hasn't spoken yet, and then I'll call the question.
I guess my only concern here is that the operator of the campground has said they need more tables in order to satisfy their guests. So this is an operational expense that's going to generate revenue, hopefully immediately. So I don't have any problem finding the money somewhere in a budget that we can do that to make our campground operational, because that's really what we're talking about here. You can't rent a car if you don't have tires on it. You can't rent a campground if you don't have a place to build a fire and eat a meal. And if we're going to run a campground, let's run a campground. Hamstringing the operator by semantics is not good. They need to be able to operate. We build extra sites, we need some more tables.
Okay, staff says she just figured something out. Go ahead.
Or I can't figure, we can figure out the funding.
Okay. Okay, all right, call the question, all in favor? Opposed, carried. All right,
Sorry, Mayor Wexton, can we continue to discuss this report?
oh, yes, sorry, go ahead.
Okay. I didn't get a chance to speak on the laundry facilities. We made a clear motion to get rid of the laundry facilities, so I don't know what happened here, but you know, there was arguments for that at the time, and that's what we decided. So I think if the proponent wants laundry facilities, they need to do some sort of proposal to us. We pay the hydro and expenses on that. You know, I think a big concern was they're not coin operating machines, they're not commercial machines. You know, it's a gravel, you know, it's a wet building. Like, I think there could be safety issues. So if the proponent wants to come to us and say, you know, I'll fix the machines and I'll give you X amount for hydro or not. But we do have a laundromat downtown, and that was a big part of it. So as far as I'm concerned, this issue was solved already. And unless somebody makes an issue to the contrary, it should continue or give the proponent an opportunity to counter the original proposal.
Okay. I voted because I thought there was a safety issue, but I probably misunderstood.
No, I thought there was a venting issue in there.
Yeah.
That was part of
Total
it.
safety
okay.
issue.
In that building, trust me.
Yeah, okay, well, then, I'll just, staff, you can put it back to them to come to us if they really wanna.
And
Okay,
if I could
anything else?
add one more thing with regards to Wi-Fi. Before the Wi-Fi was out of the building that the campground operator lived in, and maybe that's not the case now, maybe they can use the building where the laundry facilities are for Wi-Fi. I'm sure if you gave people the option of Wi-Fi or laundry, they would take Wi-Fi, and it's in a central location, and there's power going to it. And that's my input on that. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Any other comments on this report? Okay, move on then to 7H. So bringing back the Mantic Field, and it was originally proposed to do an agreement, but I think in discussion, maybe you can add more, Councillor Cole. If the field is left unlocked, no agreement would be necessary because it wouldn't be exclusive use. So what's your pleasure on this, council? Councillor Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, maybe just a little update from staff so everyone's aware where we're at. At the last juncture, we submitted an agreement to them. I understand that there's been no response, but maybe that should be officially declared.
Go ahead, Connor.
To Councillor Cole, through your worship, after the previous meeting in which we had a discussion with the Slowpitch League, sort of an informal conversation was held with them outside of council chambers, and it was relayed to me that they weren't really interested in exclusive use if it required insurance or any sort of rental contract.
Okay.
My thoughts moving forward would be that we leave the gates unlocked, and that if they wish to pre-schedule their games with us, we then give them, use of them for those scheduled periods.
Okay. And that would not require a contract then? Because it's not exclusive?
Sorry, I would say it would just be like anyone else wanting to book time on the fields.
Okay, Councillor Downey?
So have we flipped this now that the softball league has to call the town office and reserve the fields?
It hasn't been suggested yet. I was still looking more for input from council on how they wish to proceed with this.
They've already put time and effort into preparing it for this season. And we gotta have a go forward plan. We have 2 facilities that we don't, and correct me if I'm wrong, Julian, but we don't put a whole lot of, I don't even think we run the mower around very often. Sometimes. Sorry, Derek, I don't know.
No, I totally apologize, and I've dug into this, and Julian could comment or not. I'll maybe save him the breath. The town does significant work around all these ball fields, very significant work, and to be discounted and to question whether they mow it, that's just totally inaccurate. And yeah, so I'm the public works guy, so I'm coming to defense of the public works. They do very significant work. And maybe that time could be coded, or it is coded. And that's the missing link here, is that it's not just the Slowpitch League doing the lion's share of the work, or even the majority, in my opinion.
Okay, well, that's definitely then a misrepresentation of what's happening, because
That didn't come from our staff or anything. That might have come from community. But I think if you candidly talk to staff or ask for some sort of report, it's significant work, and we've given them the opportunity to really own it and raise money and do a whole bunch of things. If they don't want to do it, I totally respect that. But yeah, it's just, I don't really see a problem here. They know when their games are. They just book Monday, Tuesday, Wednesdays, and they use it. And the dogs are already running under the gate and pooing on the thing anyways. They're already dealing with all the same issues. So that's.
So I guess the question here is just whether, is there a necessity for a contract or not? And if there isn't, then we just notify the club and let them know that they need to book their game days. That's it, just like any other user. Is this what I'm hearing around the table?
No.
Okay.
In the absence of a bylaw officer, what does a club do if they want to play baseball on a field that isn't filled with animal feces? We don't have a bylaw officer. Many municipalities have ball fields located in their boundaries that are used by clubs. They also have patrols and people monitoring it. Our public works, yes, they do mow the lawns. They are not down there patrolling it and supervising that. We do not have a bylaw officer who is patrolling for dogs who are pooping on fields. So when a club, whether it's the softball league or whether it's me and my family having a reunion and we want to borrow the field to play a game, why should we not be able to have a field that is not covered in feces? The problem where all this comes from was accessibility to the fields. And I listened to the conversation at the end of our last meeting, and everybody was in favor of having a key available. You know, the problem before was who was the key keeper. Nobody seemed to understand where the key was. You know, the softball team can have their key, and a key can be kept here at the town office. Me, Shelley Downey family reunion wants to use a field. I call the town office. I say, may I use it on this date? Yes, it's available. Here's your key. Here's a $20 fee. If you don't bring it back, I'm charging you. Like, put that in place. And that was the problem. We're just trying to make fields available that are in decent shape, that aren't covered, that aren't destroyed because somebody's taken their dirt bike or their quad in and ripped them around, or had their dog running through there. There are issues here. So to say that they aren't, and that we can just have these fields wide open for public use at any time of day is being naive. It used to be that you would go to the fields and they'd be covered in broken glass. You know, what do we want? Do we want a safe environment for our community to use? Let's make it work. It's not difficult.
Councillor Cole, go ahead.
Yeah, I think we want accessible community, and I don't know what to say, except that we all made a motion to present them with this agreement, a formal agreement recommended by staff. And I really kind of resent being thrown under the bus on this whole issue, and the whole table, the talk turns to now the fields are wide open and the town is coming to mow the lawn and do everything. When we make a decision, we stick with it. And that's what we presented this group. And then now the whole thing is changing again. Like, we made the decision, they declined the offer. So I guess it's time for a new decision. But, you know, emotionally, I did want to say that I did feel that this whole initiative came from staff originally, not from any of us at this table, I don't think. However, it was a concern of staff, and we support staff and we support their concerns, and that's why we address this. And as far as the dogs pooping in the field, it's because we have a dog park next to the ball field. It's a huge mistake. Any dog can run under the fence. We got a picture from the ball club showing a poo on the field, and the gate's locked. You know, I like to have faith in my community that no one's going to take a motorbike down there and rip it up, or kids drinking. You know, frankly, the ball club drinks there the whole time during their games. So let them use the field. The field's open. They can book it. Somebody shows up, it's booked. It solves the problem. But if they want a key, then they have exclusive use, and now we're into this whole legal thing. Like, it's the modern world here. We have to have a proper agreement, and we gave them a super fair agreement. And we gave you know, I suggested they ask for a grant and aid to pay for the insurance. Like, I think we've been pretty fair.
So yeah, I just want to say, Councillor Cole, it was never our intention to throw you under the bus. I think, you know, it was because of the exclusive use piece, staff recommended a contract. I think what I hear Councillor Downey saying is that, you know, giving them a key they still have to book. It's just, what it does is it makes it easier for them than coming every time they have a game, you know, during the week. Oh, did somebody remember to pick up the key? They didn't remember to pick up the key. They still book it, but they have a key. It's not exclusive to them. It's still booked. And then a key is given to other people when they ask to use the ball field. Is that what she's nodding her head?
That's what that was the idea. The one field would be wide open. People could go throw a ball around and they would have use of the other one. But it's a legal thing. If they're got a key to the town property and control it, you know.
But they wouldn't control it. They wouldn't control it.
They sure do. Well, they're gonna show up for the game, unlock it, use it, and then lock it again. That's controlling it. I'm sorry. If somebody wants to go in the morning and use it on a whim, you know, the problem is
if I want to use the field for my family ball game, I still have to go and get a key and unlock a gate and use it and lock it up. Is that exclusive?
That is unfortunate.
Well,
that's unfortunate. I was just in Parksville, and me and my kids went through a ball around on Sunday, and there was no locked field to be seen anywhere. So, granted, maybe they got bylaw officers to prevent dogs from pooping, but
I think that,
Basically, yeah, go ahead. Done.
Go ahead, Councillor Mitchell.
I think we're making a bit too much of this. The ball club wasn't keen on signing a formal contract. Unlock the blinking gates. The gate's not keeping the dogs out, so let's not pretend that that's gonna keep the dog crap off the field by having a key in a lock. It's not. It isn't now, and it isn't gonna next week. Just the way it is. If you're gonna play ball, you're gonna have to bring a shovel. It's part of the routine, and just make her wide open with a reservation system, which I guess a reception gets another job to do. I don't know, to do the reservations for the field. And I guess a small sign up at the field that doesn't cost a small fortune that says reservations required and the town phone number so that they know where they can make a res. Otherwise, they can just walk in and play and know they could get kicked off if somebody has a reservation. And that's cool. My grandkids were here and they couldn't get on a field because the gate was locked. And they would have just went around and had fun with my son, with their dad, and banged a few balls, but they couldn't. It was awkward. They ended up driving somewhere and finding a field. I think it was one of the schools or something. But ours were locked, and yeah, I don't think it's necessary.
So would somebody like to make a motion, because staff is looking for direction? I'm hearing two. So please put it in a motion and we'll move ahead here. Go ahead. Sorry, Councillor Cole, you're on mute.
Oh, I always frozen.
Oh no. I think you pushed the wrong button, maybe. You want to do the motion? Councillor Cole or Councillor Mitchell?
I would if I knew what the motion was.
Back. Yeah, there he is, right there.
Fat fingers.
Okay, go ahead.
Sorry about that. Press the leave button instead of the mic button. Motion to take the locks off the softball fields.
I'll second it.
Any further discussion? All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Moving on to item I, annual advertising. Staff is looking for direction. What I can gather from this report is that they advertise in both the Gazette and the Eagle and are often asked for these particular dates here, as well as any public hearings that are advertised and any jobs that we advertise for. So, yeah. Go ahead. Councillor again.
In all my years on council, I've never once been asked to approve in advance what events we want to advertise for, such as these listed in front of us today: Remembrance Day, Volunteer Week, Fire Prevention, Reconciliation Day, Canada Day, Seniors Barbecue. Congratulations to grads. That's never come before council as to what we want to run ads in. An area that is missing in this report is what is the cost? Mm-hmm. Some of these I've seen in the paper, they're full page ads, some of them are not. I don't know. We're being asked, what do we want to support? Well, I'm supporting 8 ads that are a business card size, or are we being asked to support full page ones? These decisions have typically been made by staff or staff and the mayor. They sit down and the mayor will give approval on this. It's worked in the past. I don't see why it can't continue to work this way. I did speak with staff this morning, and we do have $5,000 in our admin budget for general advertising. Of that, that covers things like our temporary use permit, the different things that we've put forward recently around our OCP, and our special meetings that we've held. So we have budgets set aside for the fire department, for public works, and for harbor for the election. So I personally, I have no comment or no suggestions on this document as it's presented. If staff is sincere and would like us to approve every single ad or to know which ads we want to, the report would need to say we want a full page grad one and it's going to cost this. I mean, there's no details here. I don't even know what to make of it. So at the end of the day, what I'm really saying is I trust staff and mayor's judgment to spend the budget as it's presented in front of you, which is for general administration is a $5,000 budget for the year. Move to receive and file. I'll second that.
Okay. Any discussion? Oh,
I guess, Mayor Wickstrom, if I may, my main comment on our advertising, and not specifically these things that are listed, but just in general, when we're trying to get our message out to the public, I think that we need to acknowledge that we're in an era where newspaper advertising is likely not the most effective method that we can use. I'm not saying we shouldn't use some limited amount of newspaper advertising, but I think that we should go where the people go and use social media, Facebook, Google ads, and so on to get our message out, as well as meeting our statutory requirements to get to put it in the paper. But it doesn't have to be a massive ad. It could be a corner, small corner ad or whatever. And I think effective advertising is what has to happen, and no matter what it is. And I don't see our advertising as being particularly effective when it's not posted on social media.
Yeah, and just on that, no offense to the Gazette, but the Eagle goes in every single mailbox. So it is kind of like a mailer. Go ahead, Councillor Downey, and then we'll call the question.
Just a comment further to Councillor Mitchell's comments. As we are living in a social media age and advertising, I do not see ads that go out on social media advertising what's going on here. And I do hear people saying, oh, I heard this, how do I find it? And they're hunting and pecking through social media, which Facebook page, which page. There are many that that people tag. So, but that doesn't mean that we as a town cannot buy advertising on social media and put it out there. And that perhaps is something that should be considered by staff.
Okay. All right, all those in favor of receive and file? I think staff's heard enough as well. Okay. Going on to item 8A, we've got the elections procedure amendment bylaw 712-2022. And that is for fourth and final reading.
One question.
Go ahead.
On the 3C, 2I, 2 states, the following electors are permitted to vote by mail ballot. Those persons who have registered in advance and will be reasonably able to return their ballot prior to the close of voting on election day. So my question is, what is the test of reasonableness? That's the first question. When you read bullets 2, 3, and 4, which follow, those to me seem like they would be encapsulated in item I, number 1. So that's my question. And I raised this before, and I'm going to say it again. I'm not opposed to this, but I am alarmed that we do not have any additional voting days scheduled for our upcoming municipal elections. And I can tell you, and you guys are well aware yourselves, you have family members, voting by mail is not the answer and the end all be all. It is frustrating and it is not easy for all people to do. So to leave 2 voting days only, and this is an option for people to vote in our community, is especially having offered people as many as 8 advanced voting days is very unfair, and undemocratic in my opinion.
Okay, to staff to answer the question?
Firstly, with regards to the advanced voting days, it has been discussed and the current intention is to hold 10 advanced voting days, October 3rd to 7th and October 10th to 14th. This has not been added yet to our elections page. I did inquire about doing this, but was told to wait until after our next elections meeting in the coming week.
And what are these election meetings?
So these election meetings are meetings between myself and the other elections officers to plan election strategy, what needs to be done form-wise, ordering ballots, and so forth, what we've historically done, and what are our statutory requirements and what things that we've done just as a municipality.
Thank you.
And the other question was, what is the definition of reasonableness?
So reasonableness in that respect is the ability to return the ballot. If you are from some distance away, it may take some weeks for you to be able to return this ballot. It is the individual voter's responsibility to ensure that it returns here prior to the close of the voting on elections day. If it does not return by that time, then it will not be counted.
So I think, because my kid voted federally last time because he was in camp, and his cutoff to get that mailed in was like 2 or 3 weeks ahead of the election. But we're gonna accept, so the last day of the election is a Saturday. So you're gonna go to the post, like the post office closes at 12:30. So how does, like, mail in, great. Online, I don't care. It's democratic, everybody has a right, everybody has accessible. But this, to me, is, it's just calling for problems. Like, there has to be, like, rules, like, okay, you have to apply for your ballot, your mail-in ballot by this date, which is this many dates ahead of, do you know what I mean? Like, those solid rules have to be there, or you're, like, how are you gonna do this on a Saturday? So, be done by mail for those electors who meet reasonably and will be able to return their ballot prior to the close of voting on election day. So voting closes at 8 o'clock on the Saturday the 10th, and you put your mail-in ballot in at 9 o'clock?
Or can the mail-in ballot be dropped off by somebody at the office here?
That's not specified. Can it be dropped off at a polling station through the mail slot? Like, it's
Like,
not,
it's just to me that it's too loosey-goosey. Like, the feds have done this for a while now, have they not? Do we do it provincially? I don't remember, but.
I'll let staff answer.
So as discussed in our previous election meeting, the idea was that someone would go to the post office to do a final collection before it closed. It could also be couriered to the elections office, which is here.
But Connor, the rule says to return their ballot prior to the close of voting on election day.
Yeah, so return is by any means return.
So if I put it in the mail at 1 o'clock on election day,
Return it to the office.
but that's not what this says. And if it's a mail-in ballot, I'm not trying to pick fly shit out of pepper, but and the staff, the reason I didn't support it last time was because the staff report we got said it's gonna take no more staff time. This is gonna take an incredible amount more staff time.
Okay, Councillor Mitchell.
I don't think it's necessary for us to get into the machinery of mail-in ballots, which are well established right across North America and Europe, and they work. And for the people who are opposed to the concept of mail-in ballots, this isn't the forum to debate that. Mail-in ballots are a valid, acceptable way of voting, and all we're doing is bringing our voting procedures into the 21st century. Because someone doesn't understand the language doesn't mean it's not valid, and it's perfectly valid. And I'm not sure even why we're debating this.
I don't know if there's been a motion.
Motion on the floor?
Oh, we don't.
It's a bylaw, Ryan, like all the conversations we had about getting the bylaw right before we did the OCP. I would think that having the rules here properly, I'm not against mail-in ballots. I have guys that work in camp. They worked great for those that signed up for them. But there was very clear rules of when you asked for your ballot and when your ballot had to be back by. I'm saying that I can't support the bylaw because the bylaw doesn't say that. I'm not debating.
So Councillor Cole and then Councillor Downing?
I guess maybe to staff to appease the others, could we add the ballots have to be in like by Friday, 6 p.m. or 5 p.m. the day before
We
the
would
election?
have to rescind this and go back to second reading in order for that to be done. Go
I'd
ahead.
like to make a motion that we do fourth and final reading.
I'll second that.
Staff had their hand up and then I'll call the question.
I would caution being too particular with this because we might actually come in conflict with elections law by trying to prohibit when someone can do this. The ruling is that if someone can get their ballot back to the office before the close of voting, then it can be accepted. If it
Go ahead.
So just for clarity, just as Councillor Barron stated, this is a bylaw, and we're using words really interchangeably here. And I did have notes, how is it received? Are we dropping it at the polling station, at the town office? Those are the clarity. That's the clarity that isn't in here. It is ambiguous, and I don't think that the Elections Act, needs to be referred to for the population to know, where we're going to drop this ballot off. So that's all I'm saying is there needs to be some clarity on this.
Go ahead, Councillor Cole.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Wickstrom. Just final comment. When we discussed this before, I did ask if other communities are doing this, and I was assured by staff they are. So I highly doubt, and I do trust our staff on this, that we're going to have some legislation here that's going to leave us in an uncomfortable or unlawful position. We're not, I totally think we're not rewriting or sort of going out on our own policy here. And so I think we just need to trust staff.
By the chief election officer.
Okay, I'll call the question. All those in favor? Opposed? It's carried. Okay. Item 9A, we have the draft Parks and Recreation ad, the terms of reference, and then the committee application form, which is the same as our other committee application form. So just wondering if it was captured as we had noted, and if we're okay to proceed with this. Go ahead, Councillor Dunning.
We have a statement in here. Committee will advise on projects, policies, bylaws, give website input, consult with stakeholders, liaise with our guest services. I'm wondering, I'm going to guess they mean liaise with our visitor information, or with our manager of our visitor information center, but liaise with our guest services doesn't bring clarity. Further, it says, and economic development departments, that's plural. Do we have departments? We have an economic development officer. So I'm just wondering for clarity on the words that have been used in this document, and perhaps staff might have some clarity on that.
I believe the ad was put together perhaps a bit hastily. It was meant to be visitor experience and economic development department.
So those two could be changed. Sorry, go ahead.
Sorry, I was going to say those are two completely separate entities, and one is a timed position. One is a position that we've created that, pending everything, will continue. I don't quite understand why economic development is it just from a workflow point of view that the workflow is low, so I don't understand, and why would the Parks and Recreation be tied into the economic development, which is a year and a half left?
Motion to amend it, maybe?
Sure. I mean, I see it here, I do see an issue here in the fact that if the group is liaising with these, it's really through the councillor liaison, it's through Councillor Cole, right? So, you know, otherwise you're gonna have committee members running to staff, council, you know, I think if I can use the Tourism Advisory Commission, the Tourism Commission now, I mean, it works well having a liaison come back, or well, when it was a committee, you know, Councillor Downey came back, she reported, and she was the bridge between staff and that committee. So if there can be some way to change that wording so that it's, you know, coordinate new initiatives through, like, forget about Tourism Committee, just coordinate new initiatives through, you know, the committee liaison or something like that. And then we know that, you know, Councillor Cole is going to come and bring those new initiatives to council.
So strike liaise with our guest services and economic development department. So it would read, committee will advise on projects, policies, bylaws, give website input, consult with stakeholders, and coordinate new initiatives with
The town,
you
know.
Yeah, with the town. Town is
Yeah.
a good descriptor.
Good.
Already said.
Done, yeah,
Yeah.
there you go. So strike, yeah, so it just says at stakeholders, strike the rest, Connor, and then, and coordinate new initiatives with the town of Port McNeill, if you want to.
However the town decides that's gonna go.
Okay.
If I may, there was one more item
Go ahead, Tim.
sorry, I mentioned this, I talked with Connor about this, the last sentence. I'm a little unsure if we can have committee members like the tourism, beyond the tourism and the planning and the Parks and Rec. So I asked Connor to look into that because I seem to recall maybe we can't be on multiple committees. We have people on multiple committees. And the way that's worded is sort of alludes to that.
I'm okay with it, but you know, I don't know. Is there anything in a local government act that says you cannot? Go ahead.
As far as I understand, there isn't, but this is something I can look into further and can report back to council on that, or it just simply amends the advert at a later time before it's released.
Well, I think
if I may just clarify, the one thing for sure, like it says broadly board members, Board of Variance definitely cannot be on the planning committee or the tourism. So maybe it was just a slight tweak there.
Okay. And the terms of reference themselves? I thought they were pretty straightforward, but I don't know if you have comments.
yeah.
Can we get clarity, Parks and Rec Advisory Committee, or is it the Parks, Trails and Recreation Advisory Committee? We're using a couple of terms in there, so which is it?
I suppose that could be up to council.
I mean, to me, Parks and Recreation encompasses trails, but.
Yeah, that I did try to get ahead of that earlier, and I thought it should just be Parks and Rec Advisory Committee. I don't really see the trails thing.
Right,
Yeah.
Trails?
Because it says recommend policy and then it mentions trails down below, so, yeah. Okay, strike trails.
The terms of reference is for the Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee, so they just need to clean up the document to reflect Parks and Recreation Advisory Committee.
Okay. And then the other one is just the general form that we use for all of our. I think those are fairly straightforward. I did have a question on the advertisement. It says these positions are open to applicants from all previous and current board, blah, blah, blah. Do we want to say a preference will be given to residents of Port McNeill, or do we not care about that?
I personally don't care. That'll be a
Okay.
individual kind of decision that we'll have to make.
Okay.
I
Great.
don't think we're gonna stack the board with people from out of town, but
Or High Creek.
Or High Creek. That's what I was thinking. I mean, High Creek recreate here, so. And they, yeah, okay. Staff have what they need then. Can we move forward or do we, with those changes, go ahead.
One other clarity. So I see that all the correspondence is going for ECDev manager. Is she spearheading this committee? Is she the liaison, the staff liaison?
As far as I understood, she was spearheading this Parks and Recreation terms of reference. I've only updated them according to her notes.
Doesn't this normally go through the CAO? Like this, yeah.
Does usually go through the CAO and he has reviewed some of these documents.
Councillor Cole?
I'm totally happy to work with our ECDev. And then, you know, obviously she reports to the CAO, so I don't have a problem with this personally.
Okay, so, so do we approve these documents with the changes noted? Motion then? Councillor, can you make that motion? Okay, that's fine. I read your lips. Seconder for that? Okay, all those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Going on to Harbor Advisory Group, we've got the request for a new member. And that is?
I move that we approve Rob Palmer being appointed to the Harbor Advisory Group.
Okay, seconder for that motion?
I'll second it.
Okay, any discussion? All those in favor? Opposed, carried.
Could you put- maybe just- It says currently the HAG only has 5 members. Who spots open in commercial user and Port McNeill residents? Does that mean there are spots open, one in each of those categories?
I think so.
Or
Yeah. Because I
probably
would
was maybe with spots for that reason?
Yeah, probably.
Okay.
Okay. And then moving to 10B, we have Advisory Planning Commission member, Suzanne Hopkins.
we accept her application, appoint her, accept her application.
Okay,
Second.
great. All those in favor? Opposed? That's carried. Okay. Next, we've got a request for a form for BC Hydro. So this is for UBCM. We need to let them know by the 17th. I'm going to make the assumption that council would like to meet with them.
Yes.
Yes.
And a couple of topics that you know, we can add more, but road maintenance, the frequent outages and alternate power, which there's a coalition working on, and I'm sure, you know, we can stand with them. Do we have a third item? Councillor Cole?
I do have a question about capacity in terms of electric vehicles in the future, like for our town. I don't know if that's worth discussing, but.
That's a great question.
Speaking.
All right. So are we okay with them with the 3 topics, road maintenance, frequent outages, and, you know, alternate power and capacity of electric vehicles? Go ahead.
Just call it
I'll
line
go to
maintenance.
30% discount.
Okay, we'll have staff send this out then with those 3 requests.
Just line maintenance, I think,
Line
as
maintenance,
opposed to
thank you.
road.
Road, yeah, line maintenance, yes, you are correct. Line maintenance, because that's not just along the highway, that's other areas.
Transition lines.
Brushing,
Yeah.
transmission lines, yes, okay, excellent. Okay, sorry. So then we've got item 10-2, so council reports. I'm not sure if it was emailed to those two are not in attendance, but through meetings with Island Health, concerns were brought forward that the community is getting a little bit more vocal and that it was time for Island Health to answer some questions and hear some of those concerns in person. So a proposal was made, or a consensus was reached among the group there that the three, Port Hardy, Port McNeill, and Alert Bay, councils would hold special meetings, and the public can come and attend, and Island Health will be our guest. It's the fastest way to expedite these. We don't have to go through Island Health's channels. And so Alert Bay is going to do June 7th, proposing June 8th for us, 7 to 9, and June 9th would be Port Alice. And the idea is that community members could go to any one of those meetings. Some of the things that they want to talk about is lab access and processing, X-ray imaging. Are there plans to reduce services permanently, like closing the hospital? And the clarification on emergency services, diversions, things like that. What does that mean? What happens? There's a lot of fear in our community, and I think the community needs to hear from Island Health. Go ahead.
The one question I believe we need to ask is there a plan to change the use of our hospital? That's very different than asking if they're closing it. So
that was just used as an example, yeah. And I know that, yeah, those kinds of questions. So it'll be for us as well as the public to be answered as well. So just putting it out there, it's on an off week for us as far as our regular council meetings. So if everybody is in agreement, then we'll coordinate with the rest of the communities. Okay. The other thing is there was no expressions of interest for Canada Day, but I've already been communicating with our visitor manager, Chris Wu. He has some ideas and I'll be meeting with him tomorrow and we'll have some things to report to council. So that is moving ahead regardless. And I think there are some organizations that still want to participate but didn't want to organize. And lastly, just wanted to know, I haven't arranged it yet, but I did send an email on meeting with North Island Community Services regarding the current daycare crisis and just wondering who would like to be involved if I arrange a meeting with them.
Paul would like to join that. Is there a tentative date?
No, I haven't got anything yet. Yeah. Councillor Cole, you would like to be a part of that? Okay. Naomi?
Just to be in the loop of the date and if it works, it works.
All right. Okay, so I'll arrange and then send it out and hope that it will work for everyone. That's it for me. Are there any other councillor verbal reports? Nope. Okay. Not at this time. Item 11A, items to be removed from in camera and made public is the adoption of the 2021 audited financial statements, and those will be available upon town office, or at the town office upon request. So move to pull those out from in camera.
So moved.
Seconded, all in favor? Opposed?
Can I motion that we put those on our website?
They should, they usually are at the moment. They'll be on the next agenda on the 5-year plan. No, not 5-year plan, annual report, yes. Can I have a motion, please, that we go in camera under Community Charter Section 90, 1A, E, and K, which is personal information about an identifiable individual who holds or is being considered for a position as an officer or employee, acquisition, disposition, or expropriation of land, and negotiations related to municipal service.
So moved.
Seconded.
Okay, all those in favor? Opposed, carried. Are there any questions from the public? Didn't quite get the actual motion regarding the Lions Club grant in aid. Oh, sorry, can you pull that up? I didn't. He had
It
a
was
question in the
called,
chat. Oh, yeah, okay. I didn't quite get the actual motion regarding the Lions Club grant and aid. Was the grant approved, and if so, for how much?
Yes.
It was approved, and the amount was?
12 something?
Wow, $10,000. Okay. Motion to adjourn and go in camera, please. Moved, seconded, all in favor? Opposed, carried. See you after a short bio break.
We're going to have to be quick. We need finance at 10. Quick after.
We're going to another, yeah.
Yeah, I'll just have to ask you all to log out and we'll log back in.